All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Solar and Storage Market Series. My name is Kyle Pease, and I'm a senior engineer here at Renview. Today, we're going to be hearing from Drew Bond, the CEO at PowerField, about their new PowerRack 1200 design. But before we dive in, and while we're waiting for more people to join, I'd like to give a little background on Renview and some of the products and services we offer. Renview is a US-based solar equipment distributor. We've been in the industry since 2012, and we currently have fulfillment facilities in California, New Jersey, and Texas. Our sales staff all have backgrounds within engineering or solar installation, and our model is to be the most competitive we can when pricing, while also engaging the customer with sales engineers knowledgeable in system design to ensure you have a smooth project. Few products to quickly spotlight here. We have Enphase, the full line, IQ8 Plus, IQ8 MC, AC, HC domestic. We're very competitive on that pricing for installers. We offer bulk tiers. And if you're just looking to buy for a single project, we do offer combination deals with Runnergy panels or solar converters, for example. And we also have the full line of Growatt inverters and batteries. Their SPH inverter, along with the ALP battery, is a very popular, cost-effective off-grid and hybrid solution. We also have Solarc and their new 18K. Unfortunately, it's back ordered until December now. It was very popular. We do have kit options on the 15K with Renin and Discover batteries. Their 16 kilowatt hour monoliths are very popular and cost effective. So write in or keep an eye out for our emails about those. We'll be doing ongoing promotions on those every week or two. And then also highlighting in the corner here, we have the Blicker T gaskets. Those come in 3/16 and 1/2 inch gap options. I'll go over a little bit more of that later on in this presentation. We also work with several financing institutions. Credit Key is kind of the main quick one for installers, just needing some product for their next project, up to $50,000 credit line based on your GAR. If you send in some banking information, they will allow larger credit lines as well. 3% for 30 days, up to 12 month terms. And then also we have Build, who is great if you have landed a commercial contract and your timeline for when you need the product and the timeline for when you get paid don't quite line up. Build was actually built for that obstacle in commercial project financing. So if we can send out links if you need, and they're on our webpage as well. Say you land one of those like a landfill. If you're covering a landfill with these power racks, you're going to need a bunch of them. And Build will be great at financing you in short term. I've seen within 24 hours if you have that commercial contract that you can present to them. And then you can use that funding for anything from labor to materials, anything that comes up for that project. Here is our commercial price list. We'll share a link in the chat. This is regularly updated, so keep an eye out. It's going to be continually changing as the module stock turns over. Right now, primarily, we are promoting the Runnergy commercial modules as well as Philadelphia. There's the P types and N types, but more to come here soon as well. And now I'm going to jump over to our design and quote tool. So should be able to see our web page here. I'm on the home page of renview.com. I want to make sure that is the page that you're seeing. Yeah, it looks like that is. Okay. So you can access the design tool at the top bar. There's an orange banner or this hyperlinked image below. Either way gets you to the same place. The solar design and quote tool on the start page, you can choose between a full system or a subset. If you already have solar panels or inverters, you could deselect those, for instance. We're going to look at a full system for now, though. On the next page, select modules. I will disclaimer we're a bit low on inventory with modules right now. More to come. There will be more changes to see here shortly. But for example, we have residential N types. We should have Zenshine 410s here shortly as well. And then a Runnergy 545s. We could also swap in some of those larger options as well. Just write in and we can work with you on that. It gives you a dollar per watt metric to compare the relative cost between these panels. If you're going to have a large project buying in bulk, that's not a final number, but that gives you a relative idea of the cost differential between panels. So that's handy as you make your selections. And I think these Runnergy 545s, as you select options here, it'll populate a bill of materials. And if you can click on any of these, it'll open a new page. I think you guys will be able to see this. This is the Runner G545 watt item page on our website. And you can scroll down and you can even open up a data sheet. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. There's a data sheet on my screen here that has the Runner G545 watt. And we can look at the specs, and it looks like it's 1134 millimeters wide, which I think comes right around to 41, 42 inches. So that should work with the new PowerField racks there. So maybe we'll leave that as the design option as we go through here, just so we have that in mind. And then next page is racking. We have options for pitched roof, flat roof, carport, ground mount, and then sub options under each. For pitched roof, you can choose between comp shingle, Spanish tile, flat tile, metal roof, and then you can drill down even deeper. Comp shingle, you can switch between Halo Ultra Grip and Flashfoot 2 for your racking attachments. Metal roof, you put in your sheeting profile, and then you'll see as you make your different selections here, it'll change that roof attachment component. And if you're not sure what that is, again, just click on any of these items. It'll bring you to that item page, give you an image, give you some links to some of the installation and data sheets from the manufacturer so you can learn as you go. And then let's look at, we also have flat roof options, a ballasted flat roof system, a tilt leg penetrating system, and also we have tilt legs with the metal roof is an option as well. For carports, we offer the Blicker carport. You can select a number of two-car joined structures. That means it's about 18 feet peer-to-peer for every two car spaces, and you can have shared columns between piers. So you'd have like a six-pier system, for instance, if you had two-car structures for four car spaces. A little counterintuitive, but just since how the structures come out to every two car spaces, that's our option there. And then there's some extra materials here, that T-gasket. You can jump right over to it from this bill of materials. For the Blicker carport, that's a 3/16 inch gap, which is designed for the camo clamps, which can slide those modules close together to pinch onto that T-gasket. And there's a little profile of what it looks like. You can drill down into the installation manual and data sheet to understand a little bit more if that'll work for your project. We also send out free samples too. So just write in to order at renv.com if you want samples on those. And then the carport structure looks like this. You can see the two car spaces there. Has a 5-degree tilt. It's manufactured in Utah with US steel. It's galvanized and powder coated. Really slick system. It's up to its 5th generation now. We work very closely with Blicker on these projects, making sure that these are getting as much, we get as much feedback from installers about how the design or the install went. And so we've went through several generations getting this dialed in to have the smoothest project for you there. So there's the Blicker RCP2. And now jump back to our design tool. And under ground mount, we of course have Iron Ridge, SGA, pipe-based pipe and pier structure. And then we also have PowerField as well with the their PowerField 1200 system. that can work for these wider modules. And we'll learn a lot more about those, but for the example's sake, let's do a 2-row array with 10 panels, each of those 545s. So we'll have about an 11 kilowatt uh, system there. And then we can jump over to our inverters. You can choose between those microinverters, optimizers, and string inverters. For the microinverters, all of the Enphase options populate here. But in this example, we have a 545 watt panel, so it's not going to be a good DC to AC ratio with any of these inverters, really. So I would uh, definitely suggest looking at string inverters with that size of a panel. We have a bunch of different options with and without battery backup, standard residential as well as three-phase 208 and 480 volt options there. And then brands such as Growatt, Solus, Solarc, and Fortress. Maybe I'll show the Solarc here. The 15K is super popular. And as you're making your selections, you'll also see sometimes we have promotions that are not going to come through in our website when you make the quote, but if you just email in, we can apply those kinds of promotions. Just let us know. And then you can choose your batteries here uh, between Fortress, Renin, Discover, bunch of options here, Home Grid as well. Uh, and then, oh, at the bottom of this page, if you need rapid shutdowns or module level optimization and monitoring, we do offer those. With the power fields, I don't think you're going to need the rapid shutdown feature, but you may want the module level optimization, especially if you have some trees or something giving you partial shading. It's close to the ground, so maybe if grass grows or you get some snow on the ground, these Tygo optimizers could help you out and produce a little bit more power. And then once you've made your selections on inverters, on the final page, you can add in spare panels. You can add in balance of system, cables, connectors, wire clips. We offer PV labels, Lumen Smart Panel. There's a EV charger option as well through Growatt, and I think Fortress is it. Just let us know if you want the Fortress one. And then, yeah, I also wanted to highlight spare panels. I really recommend them. Just dealing with customers on a daily basis. I would say as a rule of thumb, a bare minimum is one extra panel per pallet. That bottom panel in the stack is going to be the most likely to get broken because of all the weight on top of it. When it's going through distribution warehouses as a forklift sets down a stack real quick, that's uh, just a high likelihood of damage compared to any other items we ship. So if you have that spare panel, you're not going to be dead in the water waiting for that replacement to come. You can swap it in. We can send you a refund for that broken panel, and you can get off to the races on your install. And of course, being the bottom panel in the pack, it's the last one you're going to notice that's broken. So I always say just bare minimum one per pallet. And yeah, maybe 5% is a real safe margin if you want a little extra. And then once you've made your selections, you come to the final page, which shows you your bill of materials. It also has this handy little feature where you can go to the data sheets and installation manuals for any of the products we have uploaded on those item pages. So just a real quick way to reference things for your design. And then you could either add those items to your cart and check out if you know exactly what you want, or if you want discount added that you saw as you're navigating the tool, or if you have any questions or you just want to save this PDF for reference, I highly recommend punching your email. And then we really just need that zip code to know the shipping and tax costs as to estimate onto your quote. We send you a PDF copy to your email, and then you can take that PDF copy and you can go over to our permits page and send that PDF over to Illumini, who is our permit plan set drafting partner, and then fill out the basic permit form. And they are very fast and cost effective in getting you a permit plan set in the format that AHJs are very familiar with to approve quickly. If you need any revisions, they don't charge extra for that, I think within 30 days. So email them back and they can fire off revisions. If the AHJ comes back with any red lines, they are very quick with that, and we've been working with them for years, so I highly recommend them. And also, if you have that PDF, you can send it off to Build or Credit Key so that they know what they're financing there as well. So that is all about our design tool. And let's see here. I'll jump back to the presentation. All right, so if you have any questions about these products while Drew is presenting, please feel free to ask in the Q&A section. We'll get to those questions at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. You can also email our sales team at order@renview.com for more information and pricing. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a link in a follow-up email. We also have recordings of previous webinars on the Renview YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Drew at PowerField.
Thanks, Kyle. Great to be here, and just special thanks to Renview for all your years of partnership. You guys have been great. I think you were the first distributor to take us on as a product, and we've been at it since 2017, so really grateful for all that you guys have done and are doing, so appreciate the opportunity. I will go ahead and share my screen, and we'll jump right into the presentation, and then ideally look forward to having as many questions as possible, just to make sure that folks are fully up to speed on what we've got going on, and we've answered all your questions. So let me just share my screen again. One more time. Here we go. Okay. All right. Can you see that?
Yep, looks good.
All right. Great. So PowerField, we're on a mission to really unlock gigawatts of global solar with a really simple solution, what we call the world's simplest solution, or the PowerRack. If you have seen our product or used our product, that's the picture of the current PowerRack that we have now. I'll show you a version, a rendering of a new one that we've got coming out in December, slightly bigger to accommodate the bigger panels. But ultimately, the company in the beginning was designed for really reducing a lot of the complexity and a lot of the cost that's associated with typical solar systems. And so our product was born out of gigawatt scale utility projects that led us down a path of having to really simplify the racking portion of the solar array. And that resulted in what we have now, which is this PowerRack. So our PowerRack is made in the U.S., fully recyclable, and I'll get into some more details about that. So if you're familiar with other traditional racking systems, they're metal rails, some are ballasted. There's some examples here of concrete ballasted tubs or cages full of rocks, also tracking systems. One of my favorite pictures is this one on the bottom right. That's actually from one of our installers that got midway through a construction project and had to scrap the whole project with the existing racking because they kept hitting rock, even though the geotech had not indicated otherwise. So they ended up using the PowerRack to get that project done. I don't feel happy for the customer that they had to scrap it in the middle, but just to prove that our product is so much easier and simpler to install than something like that. So this is really the simplest picture that shows the value here in terms of our product. This is a picture that's taken from an array in Colorado. This is a 210 kilowatt system. This is the CEO of Holy Cross Energy, Brian Hannigan, and one of his linemen working to install a PowerRack. And as you can see, you can do it very easily. In this case, and in most every case, you lay them out in a row, you fill them with dirt or gravel, sometimes even batteries. And I'll show you some pictures of that. And then the panels slide on top and clip into place with no bolts and no tools. So it's very easy to install. The install is so easy that oftentimes the installation time is increased by 10x or more. That results then in a 50% cost savings or more in the construction. Another notable benefit about our product is because it's low to the ground, You can put the row spacing closer together than with the big systems that are farther off the ground. So we really only need 3 feet in between each row. That means you can put more power per acre when you use the PowerRack. Obviously, you can use local labor, or in some cases, your own labor if you're a DIYer. And then all of this simplicity really results in cutting a lot of the costly overruns out of the projects. There's no moving parts, so in terms of long-term O&M, there's not much to worry about. It is 100% recyclable, as I mentioned, and proudly made in the USA. So I'm going to teach you how to install solar here, minus the electrical. With our product, literally you lay them out in a row, fill them with gravel or dirt or a battery, and then panels clip in place with no bolts, no tools. Congratulations, you now know how to install the mechanical portion of solar with the PowerRack. The PowerRack is compatible with any panel on the market as long as it has a frame on it, up to about 1150 millimeters. So that gets us into the 650 watt range or so. And then the electrical is really dependent on how the electrician or how you want to lay out the system. But it's compatible with virtually any electrical wiring or inverters that you need, and we're happy to help you with that design. This is an example in a much bigger scale of a 50 megawatt system. And just to give you a sense of the cost savings throughout. So I know oftentimes when you're looking at racking, you look at a price per watt on the rack, and then you want to know, okay, what's the metal or steel going to cost? What's our PowerRack going to cost? The good news is with the new PowerRack 1200 coming out, we're going to be very cost competitive with the bigger panels compared to other racking systems, just when you look at metal versus our product. But then you're going to have additional savings throughout the project, all the way down to the bottom line. So you can see here, we're looking at a significant cost savings. Again, this is on a 50 megawatt project. So we're looking at 50 to up to 75% cost savings on the mechanical installation, meaning everything, site prep, racking installation, and panel installation up to that point that you need an electrical connection. So the PowerRack's actually super versatile. So for this audience or any audience that's interested in various applications, it's been used on almost every one of these applications, from agricultural to brownfields. There's obviously a lot of emphasis and focus on commercial and data centers and the speed to power need that's there. Communities and co-ops is a great product to help bring communities together to actually install projects, and we've done several of these, including, I'll show you some better pictures of that. Residential, oftentimes customers, homeowners like our product better because it's low to the ground, therefore you don't see a big metal or solar contraption, and so you can beautify the solar array with flowers and bushes. You can put it somewhere and move it if you need to, if you decide that's not exactly where you want it. And then portable power and concerts, I'll show you some better examples of that. Humanitarian aid, show you some more on that. And then utility grid scale. We've got projects all the way up to 2.2 megawatts that we've been installed on. And we've got projects in our pipeline that are several hundred megawatts. So there's really no limit. I think about our product as the Lego version of everyone else's erector set. And so it's really that modular. And so it's really up to you in terms of how you want to utilize the simplicity for your project. So this is an up-close view of our PowerRack. This is the existing PowerRack 1000, as we call it. It's, as you can see, at a 25-degree angle. It's really just one piece with a couple of clips on the bottom. You can see on the higher upper edge where the panel frame actually engages with the rack. And so that is actually part of our patented design. And so that allows us to integrate with the frames of the panels, which are very strong. It's very strong. On the bottom, there's some tread there so that when you weight it down with some kind of ballast, gravel or dirt, it grips into the ground, so it's not going to slide anywhere. And then it's got 3 holes, 2 for drainage if for some reason you do get water in it, but it's very rare because they are covered by the panel. But we just got that in there as an insurance policy. And then another hole in case you want to anchor it to the ground for some reason. This has only been used in one scenario that I'm aware of, but we're looking at some island type applications, very high wind, hurricane prone areas that might want to utilize that. And then on the lower side, the rack, the panel frame sits on the bottom, and then there's two clips that go in with your hands. So that's it. It's really, rack with a couple of clips, fill the rack with some kind of ballast material, and then the panels clip into place. So a little bit more about the dimensions of the PowerRack 1200. So we've been limited for a while in terms of our ability to accommodate the larger panels. Good news is coming December, we've got new PowerRack 1200s coming off the assembly line. Those will be made here in America, and those will accommodate the solar panels up to about 650 watts or so. So for a specific application, if you've got a specific panel in mind, we'd recommend taking a look at that. But I think the PR 1200, the new PowerRack, will fit modules that are 1130 millimeters wide or 1130 millimeters wide, and then we've got some adapters that we can add to that to get up to 1150 or so. So, with that, I think if you're in that 650 watt range, you're pretty safe, but you'll just want to confirm with our sales rep on that compatibility. These will be made at 20-degree angle. One new feature among the other added features of the product is you can see from the PowerRack 1200, so the one that fits the smaller panels, it's got a pretty low edge of about 6 inches off the ground. The new PowerRack 1200 will be 12 inches off the ground, tall enough to be able to always fit a mower deck underneath it. And so we've gotten good feedback from our customers that that's an important feature, and so we made sure to make that part of the product design. As I mentioned, it'll be 20 degrees, not 25. And then these two dips on the sidewall are there for a couple of reasons. One is to help with alignment, and two is if you need to get your hands in under the panel to unclip the cords for any reason, you can. The new PowerRack 1200, these sidewall dips here will be perfectly dimensioned to fit a 2x4. So for laying your row out in a line and aligning your racks and aligning your panels, it'll be as simple as laying the racks down, putting 2x4s in those slots to get them aligned, filling the racks with gravel or dirt, and then moving the 2x4s down the row as you start to then add the panels on top. We've added some also additional corrugations on the side. So in terms of durability, we've just continued to improve the product from a durability perspective. It does have a 25-year warranty on it. It's made out of high density polyethylene. And so it's a high HDPE structural foam. We add a protective UV additive in it. The racks are actually protected from the sun because the panels are actually covering them. But just as an added insurance policy, we do add that UV protective additive. Most of the literature shows that HDPE lasts in the field for somewhere between 50 and 100 years. So we just want to make sure that we can match the warranty of the panel. And then at the end of the life of the array, when it's time to send your panels back to be recycled, our power racks are fully recyclable also. So we've, in terms of other specifications of the rack, as I mentioned, compatibility up to about 1150 millimeters. They do accommodate panels sitting in a landscape format. Ballast material, aggregate, gravel, sand, dirt. I'll show you a couple examples. I mentioned the batteries. It's really anything readily available. We've used almost everything. Dirt donated by the county, gravel. For the most part, you can, if you're buying by the ton, you can get crushed gravel for about 10 to 15 bucks a ton. You can also put sandbags in them. If you're doing a smaller residential project, you could just order those and have them delivered from Home Depot or your local Lowe's. From the wind loading perspective, these have been tested in the field in winds up to 85 miles per hour at the National Renewable Energy Lab. That same test that we did for the course of 2 years resulted in actually wrecking a tracking system that was on site. And our system actually was not impacted by the wind, and we had it configured multiple ways: upwind, downwind, sidewind. With you can install the panels with various racks, 1, 2, or even 3, sometimes 2.5 racks, depending on the configuration. We then, from that field test at the National Renewable Energy Lab, did wind tunnel testing with a full model scaled array up to 120 miles per hour. We've been certified up to 135 so far on projects. I firmly believe we're the best in the wind compared to anybody else for multiple reasons. One is that NREL field tests, one of the things that showed us was that because we're low to the ground, we have a 20-mile-an-hour advantage of wind dynamics compared to others. So basically, the winds we experience are 20 mile an hour less than what the competition typically experiences. And then on top of that, when you fill the racks with gravel, the current PR 1000 will weigh about 500 pounds. The PR 1200, the new bigger rack, will weigh up to 700 to 750 pounds. So if you're installing 1 to 2 racks per panel, you're putting almost a third or a half a ton of weight on the ground, holding that panel in place. It is very secure. And there's other things that you can do to mitigate the wind. Because it's low to the ground, you can build a natural berm around it. So if you decide to scrape the land, you can create natural berms on the upwind edges to just further protect your array. And I mentioned earlier, we've got this hole in the bottom where you can put a ground anchor in it. So we can give you all of these tech specs, and I know Renvu has a technical sheet on the PR 1200. Happy to share with you and look forward to any questions in relation to any of that. The panels can be installed multiple configurations. I referenced this earlier just to give you a couple of pictures. The one most common way we see it done is what we call rack sharing. So this is where the panels actually meet in the middle of each rack. And when you do that, you end up with essentially 1.1 or 1.2 racks per panel if you're doing the calculations on how many racks you need. And that's because on the outside edges of the array, of a single array or of a single block within an array, that often requires more weight for wind mitigation. The other way is if the ground isn't level at all, if it's very uneven, and you don't want to spend the time or money to even the ground, you can do 2 racks per panel. And so in that case, you end up with just 1 rack on each end underneath the panel. The panels then sit as individual units next to each other down the row. And so you get, from a finish perspective, the edges aren't quite as clean when the panels meet up, but that really oftentimes disappears in the landscape, especially when you're a little bit further back. It's oftentimes a personal preference or a customer site preference in terms of how clean lines do you want, how perfect do those edges need to be, and then how much money or time do you want to spend leveling the ground. I will say on the rack sharing, the ground, the more level, the better, but it doesn't have to be perfectly level. So if you've got a parking lot, they're going to go on really fast. If you've got ground that's undulating over the course of an acre or more, and it's somewhere between 0 to 2 to 5 degrees in terms of ground slope, it can accommodate that ground slope. It can accommodate variation throughout the array, and we've experienced that in multiple arrays that we've installed. It just gets it's just not as easy as if you've got a parking lot flat site. So we're happy to work with you, or Renvu can work with you to help you make the best choice there. A couple of other options are, I mentioned you can put more than 1 rack underneath or 2 racks underneath. So in some cases you can do this rack sharing, and then if we need to add another rack in the middle of the panel on the upwind row for any reason, we can do that. or throughout the array if necessary, but it's likely just for the upwind and perimeter rows. You can also do east-west facing. So this is where instead of having them all face south, you have them face east-west. And so in that scenario, each row becomes a windbreak in and of itself. So there's just a lot of variability here. I go back to my Lego analogy. These are Legos. The question is, what kind of set do you want? How do you want to configure your set? We can help you design a prepackaged system or a fully custom system for your best to suit your needs. These are just some examples of wiring. The one thing that works really well is once you put the racks down and fill them with gravel or dirt, whatever ballast material you want to use, go ahead and lay the home run cable down on that integrated home run cable tray. And then you're ready to put the panels on top of it, plug those in, and then wire the system up. There's a couple of other things that we like personally, just in terms of trying to keep it simple. There's some bonding jumpers that Dynaracks and others make that slide onto the frames to be able to bond and to ground the frames one to another, and then you can drop a copper stake at the end for grounding purposes. They can be, as I mentioned, it's really up to you. We're electrical agnostic, so you can do your wiring above ground. This is a cable system that we've used several times. This is actually in Colorado at a rural co-op, and then this is also in Colorado at a rural co-op, different location where they did the undergrounding. So it's up to you. It's up to your electrician. One of the things that we'll do as a part of your array is once you've identified the site that you want to lay out your project and the size of the system that you want to install, we will help work with you to provide this ballast diagram. This ballast diagram then is what you can use to get stamped if you need any kind of mechanical permitting, which, by the way, isn't always needed. But if it is needed, this will help you get that done, because this diagram, the back end of this was developed starting at the wind tests that we did at the National Renewable Energy Lab, and then multiple wind tunnel tests that we did up to 120 miles per hour. That all of that data then has resulted in us having a wind ballast calculator. The wind ballast calculator will allow us to take any given site and calculate how much weight you need throughout the array in every single rack and how many racks you need throughout that array. And so you can see here, in this case, you're going to have zone A, which is the red zone. So these are the corners, the upwind rows that are most exposed to the wind. In this case, these require less weight, but it turns out that there's more racks there. So it's distributed weight throughout the multiple racks. Whereas on the interior part of the array, while it's more weight, it's less racks. And so maybe a little bit misleading for the first time you look at it. But so this doesn't mean that this, same number of racks, just less weight on the corners. No, it's actually more racks on the corners and upwind rows. But because it's more racks and it's more distributed, those require less weight. So anyway, happy to work with you on this. We can produce these very quickly, and this will help you in your layout. By the way, this picture was taken. We just did a project in Colorado. It was a 1.2 megawatt project. We installed this in 1 week with local labor and students from the community. Again, we did that in less than 1 week. A 1.2 megawatt system. These were with the smaller PowerRack 1000s. So smaller panels, smaller racks. With the new PR 1200, with bigger panels, this site would be the equivalent of 2 megawatts. So imagine being able to install 2 megawatts in a week. You can scale that down if you're a residential installer and you're doing, 20 kW or 100, 200 kW. You can be able to install these in, a day or less. So just want to be able to give you some other installation highlights and then get to your questions. This is the site that I just talked about there in Colorado. It's in Gunnison. So if you want to drive by it, please go give it a look. We started out with a pretty rough site of lots of sagebrush, and it was dusty, dirty, and rocky, pretty undulating. It's can't really tell from this picture, but this site is not very even, and actually they put a bed of gravel down to mitigate some of the dust for the local neighbors, and so just to further emphasize that it really is versatile. It can be the PowerRack can help you install systems on level ground, unlevel ground, dirt, gravel, rocks, you name it. So there's a couple folks on our crew. That's Karen, who works with us. We've got a local student from the university and a couple day laborers that showed up that now want to work for us full time. So we've started to put them to work, and that's a plug for my son, who's actually an electrical lineman at a co-op in Arizona. So this is the first co-op that has used our product, Holy Cross Energy. They've been a true partner from the beginning. They were there for our very first installation at the National Renewable Energy Lab to watch us at that site. Then we went and installed this system at their headquarters. So this is in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. We installed 210 kilowatts or 550 panels in 2 days with volunteers, with employees from the company, including members of their board. This next system, then we did another 210 kilowatt system, again with Holy Cross Energy. This one is across the street from the Vail Eagle County Airport. And this one we installed with local volunteers from the community, most of whom are with local environmental organizations, and this specific site was actually for the benefit of our friend Adam Palmer and the sustainability fund that was named in his honor. So we actually worked with the community to help give some proceeds back to the community for income qualified people. This is a 2.2 megawatt system that we installed in Pennsylvania. It's hard to tell from this picture, but this is actually a rocky hillside. This project, the developer had been working on for almost 3 years. They had almost given up on it. They couldn't figure out a racking solution because of the rocky ground. They also were increasingly getting pushback from the community because the community really didn't want to see a big solar array with all the typical racking. And the landowner in this case is also the owner of this shopping center, the ShopRite shopping center, which is a grocery store. So they found our product, immediately adopted it, got it into the system, quickly got it installed, and since then the community and the customer have been very happy with it. We were again able to do this in about 4 weeks with local labor. So because it's so easy to install, I know oftentimes a bottleneck can be the labor force and finding skilled labor. We've many times brought day laborers onto a job site with zero experience installing solar, train them up, and you basically get it on one slide, which I showed you earlier, which is you set them in a row, you fill them, and then you attach the panels. But there's certainly some learning that happens in the process, but you can have an unskilled or inexperienced labor force take on a project and quickly become very good at it within a couple hours. And that's, after they've installed a couple of rows. So they just start to get more and more efficient at it. And anyway, it's fun to see, and it's fun to work with local folks that need the jobs. So a couple other examples. This is PowerField on brownfields. Because of the versatility, it's great to put on, former sites that were used for other purposes that are now designated as brownfields. Could also be landfills. So any area where either you don't want to puncture the ground or you can't puncture the ground. Commercial mining in remote locations, we're getting a lot of interest working with equipment rental type companies and other companies that are installing solar and batteries for remote mining locations. Mining could be an actual, dig a hole in the ground mine. It also could be a crypto mine or a data center. So as folks know on this webinar, solar, one of the benefits of it is its versatility. The additional benefit of solar when you use PowerRack and our new PR 1200 is the kind of versatility that you see here. So agricultural applications, farmers tend to love our product because it's low to the ground. Again, you're not seeing a big metal contraption power plant. Also, you can move it later if you need to move it, and they can use local labor to install it. So we've done this several times with customers where in this case, this is Colorado, where the customer really wanted solar, but they had a really pretty view. They didn't want to mess up their view shed. Our solar PowerField array is right along the fence line there, so you can barely see it. This is another farm application. So this is Willie Myers, one of our first customers in the rural ag space. He installed these actually on the corner of his center pivots. And again, we shipped him our PowerRacks, and with the solar panels, he worked with his local installer to do the electrical hookup, but used his crew to install the PowerRacks and the mechanical installation of the solar panels themselves. The PowerRack's also been used on humanitarian relief applications, so Maui fire relief and LA, showing again the versatility of the product. You can rapidly install it somewhere, you can move it later or very quickly if you need to. Turns out they also seem to act as good chairs for tired workers, so all kinds of applications. Live concerts, this is one of our customer partners, so I'll show you a picture of him in a minute. They work with concerts, so Willie Nelson, Billie Eilish. This is Lollapalooza, where the PowerRacks have been used a couple of different times. This is for Billie Eilish's concert in Grant Park, so they actually deployed this 60 kilowatt system, did it in a couple hours, left it there to power up a bank of batteries. The batteries then powered Billy's concert, and they were able to take down the solar and use that land for the concert itself during the concert. That actually is a good picture here of how the PowerRacks stack and ship. So we ship them with 50 to a pallet, and they stack in two nice two stacks on that pallet. We can obviously stack less, but right now the most that we can stack is 50 to a pallet. This is our customer that we mentioned. So this is Overdrive Energy. This is Neil, the founder and CEO of Overdrive. These are lighting stations that there's about 10 of these lighting towers at Coachella, the concert in California that happens every year for about 2 weeks. These lighting stations used to be powered by diesel gensets. In this case, what we did was work with them to integrate batteries into our PowerRacks as the ballast weight. So what you see is the panels. What you don't see below the panels are our PowerRacks, and the PowerRacks are filled with batteries. So these have effectively become solar power generators that then charge up the batteries during the day, discharge the batteries at night to produce light for these lighting stations. So I'm sure you can imagine all kinds of applications related to this. Also been used at Google I/O's launch, so once again showing the portability of the product. And then we were featured on Discovery Channel as a part of the Homestead Rescue Show. So DIYers do love us because they can do it themselves and call your electrician and plug it in. So this is our first residential installation that we did in Colorado. This was in Elizabeth, Colorado, just south of Denver. I think I showed a picture of this earlier just to show, in some cases, either the residence roof, your house may not accommodate solar panels very well. Maybe you've got too much pitch on there and not enough area. Or in this case, the homeowner didn't want to put any solar on his roof, but was happy to put a small solar garden out in his backyard. And so this was the first residential system that we did. And then I've talked about NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab. They've been a good strategic partner of ours from the beginning. This was the first system that we installed at NREL back in 2018. This site, if you were to look behind the picture where the picture is being taken, there's wind turbines from GE and Siemens and Vestas that are 2 megawatt tall wind turbines. This is a wind test site that they use for wind turbines. this is the same site where we installed this system. We installed this system in half a day with no experience doing it. This was also the same site where there was a tracking system that got wrecked during the same wind event that didn't touch ours. So another reason why I continue to believe that our product is the best in the wind compared to anybody else's. So with that, I'll end there. I mentioned, we're on a mission to unlock gigawatts of global solar, and we've got the world's simplest, most versatile installation solution to do that. And hopefully, with your help, all those on this call and on the webinar will help us get there. So, thanks for your time, and look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Drew. We don't have any questions in the Q&A yet, but everyone's welcome to submit there. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see Q&A. Type in your question, and Drew will get back to it. I do have one question we could get started with. What are the don'ts with the system? What kind of things do we want to maybe avoid doing to prevent trouble with your project?
Yeah, I think, we would typically say don't put them in flood-prone areas. I emphasize flood-prone. If it's a couple inches, not a big deal, that's fine. If we're talking about areas that are going to get, a couple of feet of water every now and then probably not. I will say our product has been used in flood zones. And so I think there we just want to know before we say no to a project, what exactly are the limitations of the project? For instance, an EPC in California recently installed a half a megawatt or so project in a flood zone. It was designated as a flood zone because it was downriver from a dam. So in that case, well, if the dam breaks, you've got bigger problems than your solar farm. But so in that case, the fact that it's a flood zone really isn't any kind of a risk factor. So you just want to be common sense about it because they are low to the ground. I mentioned the PR 1200 is 12 inches off the ground on the low side. So we just want to make sure that low edge of the panel itself, which sits at 14 inches or so off the ground, that won't be exposed to being underneath water. But that's really about it. Oftentimes we get questions about ground maintenance. You do have to mow around the array if you've got high growth grass area. We've done everything we can to make that as simple as possible and easy on the landowner as possible. So that's why we raised that lower edge so you can get a mower deck underneath it. And so we would just recommend you maintain the ground surface in the same way that you would normally.
That's great with that higher bottom edge. Now, I think that'll alleviate a lot of concerns customers have had about that maintenance. And then also, I could think in snow conditions that reduces the amount of shoveling you might need to do if you're concerned about that affecting the production on the panels. And you might actually get a benefit with the ground reflection coming up just under that bottom edge. It seems like that would be a good reflective condition there.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Kyle. I think one thing that we've noticed is and I'm sharing my screen again, so hopefully you can see that. Bifacial panels have been used many times with our product. I think oftentimes the calculation is, well, what's the added cost of the bifacial versus the monofacial? And then what is your expected increase in production given any racking system? And so whatever that might be, I think you're going to see the same, type of additional benefit with our racking system as with others. I will say that we've seen in some cases additional benefit of production when using our racking. I don't want to over advertise that, but it's one that we saw at a test that we did at the National Renewable Energy Lab. We believe that's for a couple of reasons. One is because when you fill the racks with gravel or dirt, they actually become a heat sink. And so that helps relieve some of the heat stress on the panel, which normally would reduce the production. But in our case, because we are a heat sink, it helps the panel sort of perform at optimum level. The other is because they're low to the ground, they're actually benefiting from the natural cooling and electromagnetic field of the Earth itself. So there's, again, I don't want to over advertise that yet, but there is some additional benefit that we've seen. And then, you mentioned snow, and it's interesting because they're low to the ground, and we've, in the beginning, didn't think that our product would be a great fit for like the Northeast, to give an example. But it turns out we've had a lot of products and projects that have been sold in the Northeast. I think what you see is when you're looking at a solar array and a racking solution, you're going to expect that solar array is going to experience some shading from the snow throughout the winter if you're in a high snow area. Even if they're off the ground, what happens is there's often an ice edge that forms on the panel frame. That ice edge then begins to build up, and you get snow buildup on the frames. And when they're high off the ground, you can't do anything about it. Because ours are low to the ground, you can actually get out there and sweep them off, snow blow them off with a leaf blower if you want to, or you just factor that into some kind of production loss for the system analysis.
Nice. Getting back to the don'ts a little bit, I was curious about aggregate types or soil types or surface types to mount on. Are there any cautions there to note?
We are really agnostic on the aggregate types. I will say with the newer PR 1200, we've got all these added corrugations and structural reinforcements. It is a very sturdy product. If you just take the aggregate forms by themselves, when you put sand in place, it tends to want to, creep out and wants to spread out. When you put aggregate like road crushed gravel or the bigger gravel that you might see even under like a railroad track, that has a gravity factor that makes it want to just sit down and not spread out. So in terms of the longevity of the product, it's probably safest to use something like a thicker gravel that's going to want to sit down and not spread out like sand. But as you can't see it in this picture actually, but there's some additional ribs, significant ribs on the inside of this, corrugations all around it. I mean, it's extremely sturdy product. So, we generally say it's up to you. If I were installing, I would probably use some road crushed gravel, but we've used pea gravel or squeegee as they call it, for smaller residential projects. It might be easiest literally to go to Home Depot and buy some sandbags or, concrete mix bags, just something to, get the weight in there that you need.
Nice. Do they do okay on concrete slabs or hard pan?
They do. They actually do really well on concrete slabs. There's a picture later in the slide. I think we've got an airport highlighted in here and some of these brownfields. So this is a hard rock gravel surface. We've got, I don't know if it made this deck or not. We've got a picture of an airport somewhere. And so they, once you fill them with gravel or dirt, the PR 1200s are going to be on average probably 600 pounds up to a maximum of say 750 pounds. But even if you were to back that down to 500 pounds, I mean, 500 pounds is a lot of weight. Once you put that 500 pounds in a PowerRack, one, it becomes very stable. Even though the bottom of it is rounded, it becomes kind of surprisingly stable just because you got so much weight in there. And I should note that the rounded bottom is important because what that does is allow you to accommodate ground surfaces that aren't perfectly flat. So if that bottom of that rack was perfectly flat and the ground wasn't, then you'd have a problem with it being, uneven, and basically kind of contorting the rack itself. In this case, our PowerRack has a rounded bottom that's actually part of our patented design, and that helps accommodate uneven surfaces, but also accommodates even surfaces, whether they're hard or soft.
Awesome. Well, I didn't see any Q&A questions come through. Was there anything else you wanted to point out before we close?
Yeah, I think just, now's the chance to jump on board with us. If you haven't used this, please reach out. The PR 1200, which I'll flip to, this PR 1200 is coming out in December. We're taking orders now, so we're ramping up our manufacturing. We'd love to continue to, support your customers. And again, just a special thanks to Renbu for all you guys have done.
Great. Thank you, Drew. We've recorded this webinar, so we'll send out an email to everyone who's signed up. Be on the lookout for that, and you can email in any of your questions or any follow-ups to order@renview.com.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Okay, take care.